Live and in color from the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful Southern California, and in parallel from the Turf's Up radio studio in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thanks for tuning in to the Water Zone show this evening.
All right, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending where you all are in this wonderful world. Hope everybody's doing great. And introduce here, I'm Rob Starr along with Mr. Chris Davey, and he is the most awesome hydraulic guy that I know in the business. So, how are you doing today, buddy?
Thanks very much for that. I don't know how to take that. You mean like I'm built hydraulically, or what's your meaning there, buddy?
After all these years, you asked me that question. You're very fluid. How's that?
I was going to tag on that one myself, buddy. You're good, but we better stop now, or they'll close us off the air anyway. But I'm doing all right, Rob. Thanks very much, and I appreciate the introduction. We got a great show this afternoon, especially with a surprise guest for all of our listeners. And why don't you tell everybody that we're not going to have Miss Chris Austin on this week?
Well, you started. Go ahead.
Well, I will. I mean, it's. I wish she was here for sure, but She had a last minute something that she had to take care of. So Chris will be back next week, and she sends her apologies to all of our listeners. But if she was here, Rob, I bet she'd be talking about the revised water allocations, because the last few storms we had here brought considerable more rain, and the snowpack, which they just had the Phillips Station measurement. They just did up in the Sierras, and determined that our snowpack this year is 100% of normal. So with those figures that just came in, the Bureau of Reclamation, and for those listeners that aren't aware, the California water system in the San Joaquin Valley is run by the Bureau of Reclamation. They have decided to increase water allocations throughout the state for both farming, agriculture, and for domestic drinking water use, up 10%. So that's a real good sign. That means a lot of us aren't going to suffer. We're probably not going to get those kind of letters from the water agencies that say, stop running the water while you brush your teeth, and 5-minute showers and all that stuff. What do you think?
Can you ship some to Arizona? My wife went to an HOA meeting last night and complaining about the parks aren't being watered, and they said they have to follow some allegation thing, but yet they have a bunch more for a new 3,500 homes they're going to build. So it was a heated argument yesterday. I didn't go, but I figured my wife would be vocal enough to take on. She said it was crowded, hundreds of people complaining about, we want water in parks, we want green grass. So. Anyway.
Well, that's the way it is in California. We like our green grass, but there's a lot of native plants around here. But I'll let you in on another real quick secret here. People ask about the State Water Project and how many people are involved. So just so you know, it affects 27 million Californians. 3 million acre-feet of water, and there are 29 public water agencies that get its water from the Central Valley Water Project, and the Bureau of Reclamation operates that.
Absolutely. And, there's so much going on with water in California, and actually, it's news today. I mean, it used to be something in the background, but now it's main news all over the world. And
water is the news.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey, so Rob, last week you mentioned this new technology for deep sea desalination.
Yes.
And I know this week you learned a little bit more. Tell us about that.
Well, there's a company, and they have some new technology. They can do desalination offshore, and it sounds pretty interesting. Then I read another article that Inline Pipe, who was on. We had one of the principals on that a couple months ago, and they just did a big deal with some new technology that can help deliver water and produce water. So there's a lot coming up. We're going to have Ocean Well is the name of their company, who's doing the thing, and I've talked to them already, and they have agreed to come on the show. We're just nailing down the date, but they're all set to go, and we gave them a couple alternatives. they're based. I have an office in California, but they're based overseas. So we're trying to see who we can get and coordinate the times, because Asia's a little different in time zone than we are. So it'll be late at night for us and early in the morning for them. But they may have some representative or some official of their company here in the United States to come on. So, but they're definitely going to come on. We'll know. We should know next week what the date's going to be. So that should be exciting. But speaking about exciting, we have a good guest come on. He's our featured guest. And I have to say, for everybody who knows, he's a good friend and been a friend for many years. And his name is Steve Creech. And Steve is the visionary president of the Wyland Foundation, which is the global leader in ocean conservation. And under his leadership, the foundation has expanded its impact through educational programs, community outreach, partnerships that promote environmental sustainability. Steve's passion for preserving marine ecosystems and his commitment to Wyland's mission has driven the foundation to inspire millions worldwide to take action in safeguarding our planet's ocean. Now, for people who don't know who Wyland is, he's a very, very, very extremely famous painter. He paints a lot of walls, does a lot of sea life with whales and sea lions and things. But Steve's been with him for, I think, for 1993, if I'm correct, but we're going to bring him on. He's going to tell us. And this past month was something special activity they had, and we're going to get into all the things they can do and what everybody, our listening audience, can get involved with, because it's pretty neat competitions and things that are going on. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Steve Creech.
Hi, Rob. Hey. How's it going?
Doing good. Hope I killed your introduction okay.
Well, I think my mom would approve.
and your wife. And your kids.
Right, and my wife and my kids. Yeah. So really that's I think that's the best compliment anybody could get. But no, it's awesome to be here, and I want to know more about that deep sea desal. I'm always curious about new technologies that are coming up, and I think that's one of the real strengths of our country is that we're always so adventurous and going after new technologies and looking for solutions to emerging problems. So we're happy on from the Wyland point of view just to be in the conversation here and hopefully making people more receptive to supporting those types of new technologies, because our goal is to help them understand what the issues are.
Right. Absolutely. And, just for our audience, because sometimes we have new people come in, we have lots of people listening, actually, and then follow us on the internet. But maybe you can give a little background about Wyland and how it started and so forth, and some of his accomplishments, and then get into all the different programs you guys are doing. That's amazing. And for the record, our company, the Toro Company, is a sponsor of the Wyland Foundation. We participate a lot in certain things, and I'm sure you'll mention that. But go ahead, give us some background.
Yeah. Well, I think anybody in the 1990s is probably familiar with Wyland, the marine life artist. Mostly well known for his gigantic marine life murals all around the world. But I think there were over 70 in the United States. You could see them along the highways in Boston, Michigan Avenue in Chicago, New York at the Bus Authority. The Long Beach Sports Arena, his murals cover anywhere from 100 feet high to 6 acres in size. He was recognized in the Guinness Book of World Records, and his idea was really kind of a seminal vision, because back in the 1980s, the environmental movement was kind of on the wane. Things got really big and vibrant around Earth Day in 1970, and that continued on for a good decade. But towards the middle of the 80s, the environmental movement kind of started to wane a little bit. And Wyland, who was a Detroit guy, got out of art school and had this idea that was pretty outlandish at the time, if you think about it. But he wanted to paint these gigantic marine life murals on buildings wherever he went. So the first mural is always the hardest. Like they say, earning your first million is the hardest. Well, it took him 2 years, as a young guy who was probably in his early 20s, to get the permits and funding and everything you needed to paint one of these murals. So he ended up painting it in Laguna Beach, and it actually caused quite a stir back then, which is kind of hard to imagine because nowadays it takes so much more to cause a stir, you know what I mean? But at that time, nobody was doing anything like that, and now there's so many different interests in a community that even painting a mural becomes much more challenging now than it used to be. But back in the late 80s, early 1990s, that was a pretty special thing. So he and the team at the time went around the country just painting mural after mural in almost every city. It didn't necessarily matter that they were close to the ocean. It was just more important for people to understand that everything they did upstream affected the health of the ocean. So the murals were kind of a reminder that everything we do has an impact. There's always a chain of causation. And if we don't take care of our backyards, with what we're doing with our water and our water systems and what we're putting into them, that's going to find its way to the ocean. So from that, the foundation blossomed, and it became more of a figurehead for taking care of our watersheds, thinking about what we're doing upstream, managing our water resources, and taking care of our lakes, rivers, streams, all of the water systems that we depend on, and looking at them as if they're our own personal responsibility. So when we talk about things like how we use fertilizers or how we use pesticides, how we save or waste water, it all matters. And so the foundation really became an advocate early on for changing those behaviors, because we knew, and Wyland knew instinctively, that our water resources are limited. And you guys were talking at the beginning of the show that water's big news now, but back around 2000, that's when I started working with Wyland, but back around 2000, people would come to us in the industry, in the water industry, and they would say, we just cannot connect with people on water. We can't get them interested in it. They have all these assumptions about it, that it's free and you just turn on a tap and you get it, and that's as far as the thinking went. But as we know now, there are limitations to it, and when you're building more housing developments in the desert, you start to realize how limited your supplies are, or how important conservation and efficiency is. So we've been advocates for that message at the school and youth level, at the community level, and then also working with businesses and government.
You've done a lot with the United Nations.
We've worked with the UN. We work with the White House Council on Environmental Quality. We work with the National Forest Service. We currently work with the U.S. EPA has been a partner on our National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation, National League of Cities. Basically, everybody who has a role to play in water management and conservation, we've worked with. But it's been a great journey, and there's so much more to do. As anybody who listens to this show knows, that it takes NGOs like us. It takes good partners, and yes, the Toro Company has been a great partner over the years, and it's very important to us that our partners share our values and understand what our goals are. So that creates long-lasting partnerships, and Toro's been right there with us. But also the cities that we work with, and when we get involved, we want to amplify the message of their water department, sustainability department, and spread that to the local community. And hopefully, as people become converted, they share it with their family and their friends. And social media is a great activator for that now, because you can connect with people anywhere on these really important issues. So I think if we channel these these great strategies carefully, and I think we can use social media and these new communication channels to really have incredible change.
Oh,
And
I agree.
use them for good instead of evil, Rob.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, the people behind the scenes are amazing. Of all the people, I've worked with you for how many years now? 15 years, 10 years? Long time. Mm-hmm. But the people that he had on his advisory board, you know, people from Jacques Cousteau and the guy from Sea Hunt and that lady, I just went blank.
Dr. Sylvia Earle from Mission Blue,
who's done all the National Geographic stuff and everybody else. It's amazing. You know, with ConocoPhillips, and then go down the list. I mean, it's just incredible. So I know April was a special month, and I participated with you for many years on that. And it's something called the National Mayor's Challenge, the Winelands National Mayor's Challenge. Maybe give a little history of that, and then I'm going to let Chris jump in and get you some questions and things. So tell us about that, how successful that was.
Well, we started that. The program is called the Wineland National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation, and that was one of those programs where a handful of mayors approached us in South Florida, and we had already been making some noise about the importance of water conservation, and they came to us and said, hey, you guys have had some success in this arena. This was back in early 2000s. And they said, we cannot seem to make a dent in communicating with people in South Florida about water issues. And we know this is going to be a bigger problem because the region is developing, more people are moving in here, and these resources are going to become a lot tighter. We want to get in front of it, and is there anything that you can help us with? So, you know, we put our heads together, and we came up with this way of encouraging residents to make pledges that save water and that they could do this online. It'd be free, and that we'd give them these prizes. They'd also make pledges to reduce pollution, and the city with the most residents who made pledges, we would have cash prizes. We would give away cars. We would give away.
And they weren't dinky little cars. They were $50,000 cars.
No, they weren't. They were. So we were working with Toyota at the time, and so we would give people cars, and I mean, we were really priming the pump here, trying to get people to to take the pledge. But you know, it was all for a good cause, because you know, it's hard enough to get people interested in water, and it takes a whole lot of different communication strategies to connect with them. And you know, the thing about the Mayor's Challenge is, you know, it's all nonprofits, all community service. There's no gimmicks. There's nothing to it. You know, it all comes from the nonprofit side. Our only goal is to make people more aware about water resources and what they can do to promote sustainability, you know, over the years. So that's all of it. That's what it's about. But you know, I think we had about 6 cities participate, and then you know, I think we're well over 1,000 now who've taken it, and we've added new custom artificial intelligence impact insight tools this year. So now, instead of residents just making pledges, we look at those pledges and we calculate what the net impact would be over the course of a year, like how much water you might be saving, how much hazardous waste you might be reducing, and it will give you a numeric a calculation of what those are, you know, gallons of water saved, pounds of hazardous waste removed. But more importantly, what we're doing now is we're using AI to give people more insight on what that means. So it's not just an ambiguous number. The AI will look across the country and look at their region. It'll look at what issues are going on. It could be algae blooms in South Florida. It could be drought in southern Nevada. It could be any number of water issues. But the AI will look around the country. It'll look at the issues that you will have the most direct impact on, and it will say, hey, great job. I see that you're doing this. Keep this up, because this is exactly how we're going to address these issues. And so it gives people more relevance and a better understanding of these behaviors and why they're important. Otherwise, it's all well and good to make a pledge, but the important thing is, for us, is that people understand the relevance of that pledge and that they continue to do it. So we measure all of that, and we track real world outcomes, and then on top of that, we give people resources. So for home efficiency tools and drought resistant landscaping tips. And last week, for instance, in the city of Santa Ana, we gave away 250 native fast-growing shade trees to help with the at-risk communities over there who need more shade cover as the temperatures increase as we get into summer. So we're always looking for different ways to help the communities, make people more aware, and of course reach the kids too. So
I'll let Chris jump in because I'm hogging the airways. Chris, come on in.
And no, Chris, you've been so quiet over there.
Hey, Steve. How are you, buddy? It's great to have you back on the show again. I know you've been on with Rob and I a couple of times, but always a pleasure. So I got a couple of questions, and one of them is going to be taking us on the Wayback Machine for a minute. But before that, listen, Rob and I, we both did pledge, and I know that pledging is still important. And by the way, the calculation that you provided to me after I did the pledge was interesting to see, because it was somewhere around 40,000 gallons per year, and that's significant. And I've done all the turf to native already, and appliance upgrades and things like that. And I know Rob pledged as well, because we discussed it amongst ourselves. But I just wanted to make sure that the listeners understand that pledging is still important, because it just brings all these issues to the forefront, makes people think about it, makes people appreciate it, and when they have it in the forefront of their mind, they tend to act on it more. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And when it is at the forefront, it drives economic decisions as well.
Right.
One of the pledges that we have in one of our programs is to just get an irrigation audit every year. And I think to most people that sounds fairly banal, I guess. But when you think about it, because landscape uses so much water, if you can adjust your irrigation systems and get them working at max efficiency throughout the year, you're going to save an incredible amount of water. And of course, we're talking about the economies of scale here. So if more people are aware of those types of things, then the types of savings can be incredible. So
agreed.
You can't discount awareness programs, but the awareness programs have to lead somewhere, and that's always our goal, is go from awareness to education, and just make it more relevant for people so they can understand that this is as important to them as their energy bill, their energy, and all the other, I guess, utilities and needs that they have. But water, you can't live without it. You can't live without clean water. You can't live without clean air. So it gets pretty fundamental when these resources, I don't want to say scarce. I mean, you were just mentioning about the snowpack. But in California and Arizona, of course, we're in a prolonged drought, and I don't think anybody who lives in these places says anything like that to alarm anybody. It's just a reality. And conservation's it's always good, because for one thing, our California's growing, Arizona's growing, and we have to build more infrastructure. You know, the resources are still limited. So, but I think this region has done really well in terms of, practicing conservation and sustainability. And I know we're using water much more efficiently than we did, a couple of decades ago, and that's to the credit of, entrepreneurs and the states. And but it's a long road, and more people are moving out here.
Yeah, they are. So Steve, are you ready to take hear a little story from the past? Because I'm going to tell you, there's a story here. I was, I'm a native Californian, right? Been here all of my life, and way back in 1980, 1981, I was, I had, as a younger man, I had blonde hair and I had surfer hair, and I was a surfer, and I lived just north of Seal Beach in a town called Downey. Back then.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah, yep. And so, I've got this vivid memory in my mind, Steve, about the original Wailing Wall right there, in Laguna Beach when it was painted. Because I drove past it 2-3 times a week, right, with in the car with my surfboard strapped on the top, and going back and forth. And as you said, it was unique at the time, right? No one else was doing this. This was sort of, art avant-garde, and there was some controversy and, raised eyebrows and crinkled foreheads and, all that stuff about it. But I got to tell you, it was a vivid memory for me when I saw that gray whale on the side of whatever the hotel was at the time, which is still there. And
Hotel Laguna,
the Hotel Laguna, and you said it was a significant project marking Weiland's career, the beginning of his career, and it just makes now at this time in my life, it makes me very happy to look back and have that fond memory of seeing that wall being done, and driving past it and thinking, how bitchin' that was, right? So.
Right.
You got the jargon down.
Right.
Yeah.
And 50 feet away from that is Weiland's studio, so people can go down and take a look at both.
I think it does bring people back to a certain time for sure, Chris. And I think also what's special about those murals is, it's not selling anything; it's saying something. And I think that matters to people, and I think also just seeing a whale at its true size is so unusual because people don't really get the scale of it. You go out on the water on a whale watch, you might see a fluke, or you might see a dorsal fin, but you never really get that full sense of scale. And I got to say, once Weiland and I were filming a show for Discovery Channel, and I was the writer on it, and Weiland, of course, was the star, and we decided to film in the Sea of Cortez, and so we went out looking for a blue whale because he wanted to get some underwater shots of a blue whale. And you may not know this, but blue whales are incredibly fast. And they're almost like speedboats, and they're really skittish and elusive. So unless they want to get near you, there's no way you're getting near them. And you could have a Zodiac or whatever, but once they go under, the next time they'll come up, they'll be 3 miles away. And so we were out on a liveaboard boat, and we were seeing every kind of whale out there, and it's incredible in the Gulf how productive it is out there. You'll see finback whales, and you'll see sperm whales, and there's just every kind of life out there. And I highly recommend anyone, if you haven't been down there, it really is a trip of a lifetime. It's like going back into prehistory. But so we were having trouble even getting close to a whale, and cruising all around the sea there for about a week. And then one day, a whale decided to grace us with its presence, and it just emerged right next to the boat that we were on. And at that point, I'd never seen one before. And this thing, when it came out of the water, the sun was setting, and the water was just glistening off its back. And it was like watching a submarine or the Nautilus, come out of the murky depths. It was the biggest thing I'd ever seen, and it was such a force of nature. It just made you think about how lucky we are to be on this planet and how insignificant we are. And all of those things all roll into one. But when you see these animals at their scale like that, it just sends shivers down your spine. And so those murals that he painted, reflect at least a portion of that feeling. And that's the kind of thing that never leaves you. And I think for people like yourself, me, Rob, others, who saw those murals early on, it does stay with us. And I think in some way, it reinforces this sense that we want to take care of things. And, we want to help people, follow that path like we did, and that sense of inspiration and wonder, because it really does drive so much of what we do. I mean, water by itself is just water, but when you think about all the life that depends on it, all the history, and it's really a magical thing. And I think that's part of our role as a foundation, is to share that with people. And the role for the show is to bring that into the conversation as well. And of course, you guys do great things on the trade side and infrastructure and bringing up the latest news and innovations. But water's so important, and it's the key to survival.
Well, I think you're right. I think you're right. It certainly brought up for me, right, a bit more of an open view as to what was going on, and created me to go out and inquire a little bit more about what's happening and what the sea life is all about. I think that was when it started back in 1980, 81. I can't remember what year it was, but it was early 19.
I think that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah, early 1980s, and then of course there's been 100 since then. So I can say this. I also remember the year after that, I think Weiland painted one in San Clemente, right, at that college down there.
And that's on top of everything else that he's done. He's done murals for schools, and right. I mean, Ronald McDonald House, Children's Hospital. Just so much giving and support all around the country and all around the world. I know because I've been there for a good chunk of them. And I started, just to correct the record a little bit, Rob, I started with Weiland back in around the start of the new millennium. And I'd come out of journalism, and I was at a fork in the road, and was starting to law school, and someone said, "Hey, I know this guy is looking for a publicist, and he needs a writer to help him with some books." And I was like, "All right, I could do that for a few months before I start school." And so, 2.5 decades later, here I am.
Well, he's an awesome guy, and when people think he's untouchable, but he's the most down to earth, honest person I've ever met, and for you as well. And you guys make a great team, and it's awesome. Well, we're going to take a little break just for a 1-minute commercial. We'll be back. So stick around, Steve. We got a bunch more questions to talk about, and some things that you need to share with us. So we'll be right back for our listeners. So stick around.
Water is one of the biggest expenses for communities, HOAs, universities, golf courses, and resorts. So keeping those costs under control, especially when rates are increasing while water supplies are being reduced, are often essential to a customer's survival. Managing water requires multiple skills, which is why it's been complicated and difficult until now. AquaTrack brings multiple skills and technologies together to help large system users conserve outdoor water and improve the health of their landscapes. AquaTrack's professionals are certified landscape water managers and certified landscape irrigation auditors. The company offers audit services, upgrade advice, technical expertise, and water use monitoring. We already manage irrigation water for the largest homeowner associations in Arizona, and we're prepared to bring our knowledge and experience to help others, including landscapers and designers. Give us a call and hear how AquaTrack saved one HOA some 430 million gallons of water and $200,000 in annual water expenses. AquaTrack is Arizona-based, and you can reach us at 623-594-8689. That's 623-594-8689.
One of the most time-saving tools I found for my customers is our app and our e-commerce feature. So customers actually have the ability to view all of their quotes in one place. If you contact your Site One seller, you'll be able to log into your account and see all your quotes in one place. And instead of jumping on the phone or waiting for your seller to call you back, you can approve it right from the website, and it will send a message to your sales rep to get it on order and reserve the material. Customers can learn more about these tools at their Site One branch, from their local seller, from their local CX specialist, and from SiteOne.com, or by downloading the Site One app.
All right, welcome back to the second half of the Water Zone, and I'm glad everybody's sticking around. It's a great conversation with Steve Creech, the president of the Wyland Foundation. And I was just going to jump in with one question, then I'm going to turn the rest over for Chris. I don't want to hog the conversation. But there's so many things you can talk about, Steve, and I'm going to say a bunch of them here, and then you pick it up and tell me what you want to talk about. You got the mobile learning experience, which is an incredible thing. You do contests with the Wyland Art Challenge. You do teachers' resources, Streams of Hope. Pick it up and tell everybody what these things do, and they're great. And just to clarify, the pledges that you ask for is not a money pledge. It's a pledge of saying, I'm going to do something to help reduce my water usage and keep rivers and oceans clean. So just to make that sure that everybody understands that. Because when you approach it, hey, I need a pledge, they think, oh, he's hitting me up for money. No, that's not the way it works with the Wyland Foundation.
Yeah.
So just wanted to say that.
When we set that up, there wasn't a whole lot of that going on. In fact, when we came out with the Mayor's Challenge, and it was a behavioral pledge, people thought that was pretty novel, and now it seems to be fairly common. But hey, the name stuck. But thanks for clarifying that. No, it's absolutely free, and it is just a way for people to make a personal commitment to themselves to do things a little better. But yeah, thanks for the plug on the different programs that we have. And I would love to talk about our clean water mobile learning experience. And we've talked about it, in the past, but it's such a unique experience. And for your listeners, we have a mobile science lab, and calling it a mobile science lab is probably shortchanging it a little bit. It's a 1,000 square foot mobile science center on wheels. And it goes directly into schools, and it provides immersive watershed science, pollution awareness. But, I mean, you really got to see this thing to believe it. It's a double expandable tractor trailer. It's about 80 feet long, and it weighs about 70,000 pounds. So for us to move it around, it takes a village, that's for sure. We have a whole staff devoted to it. But, there's very few mobile experiences like that can actually accommodate 500 students at a pop, and which is really important for schools that don't have a lot of budget, and Title I schools or schools that are just rural or too remote to get to the local science center. But what we do is we try to make those take all the restrictions away, all the costs that go into busing kids and lunches and all that. So we bring the whole thing to them. It's got a 40-person onboard theater, and we've got 12 80-inch screens that are all synchronized and with some of the most incredible content about water that you'll ever see. And we have a new production where the kids on board get to pretend they're being awakened out of a hypersleep, and they're alien science students, and they're coming to Earth on a field trip. So they get to learn about Earth's water from a different perspective. It's really super cool. And they get to learn about watersheds, and they learn about Earth science and the Earth seasons and how our weather works, and all of the hard sciences that correlate with science standards. But then a secondary part of the exhibit is its watershed room. So there's a running river inside where kids can learn about water as a shared resource, and they divert water pathways and on the Colorado River, and inevitably the kids will try to hog the upper basin water and keep it from the states in the lower basin. Well, go figure. Who else does that, right? But they actually have to go through these decisions the same way adults do. And how are you going to manage this water? There's only a certain amount of water, and we need it for agriculture, and we need it for tourism. We need it for wildlife. So there's a lot of competition for those resources. And the smart people in the world have to figure out a way to allocate that water so all of those needs are served. And so the kids are they're following the pathways that the adults are also trying to figure out as well. But the kids can also make it rain over a city landscape and understand how pollutants will find their way downstream during a rainstorm. And there's, oh my gosh, it just goes on and on. So we provide it on a sliding scale to schools in need. And for any of your listeners, trade associations, people in the water industry, they can just reach out to us at info@wylandfoundation.org, or just check out our website. But I do encourage people to book at least 6 months in advance, because it does sell out. But it's a real labor of love, and I guarantee there's nothing like it. Let's see, we work with all the water agencies in Southern California, and we'll do tours outside of the state. We are going to be going to Houston and Texas, so if there's any of your listeners out there that want to jump on the tour bandwagon, just give us a call, and we'll see what we can do. But that's one of our biggest programs, and we do an art mural challenge called Water is Life, and a little different from your everyday art contest. This is students around the U.S., and they create murals. So we get them to work together and express their interest and thoughts about water stewardship through public art. And of course, Toro creates a beautiful calendar every year with the winners of the art challenge. So I think the thing for people to know about Wyland and the foundation is that it's a very creative endeavor. It's a group of very creative people who care, and we're all trying to make a difference. But the thing about the foundation is it is fun, and I think that's a really important element to capturing imagination and engaging people. We find different ways for people to express themselves, to become informed, and also to take action. And I think there's virtually nothing more important than being able to do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob, for the thumbs up there, buddy. But hey, Steve. So I got a couple of questions that came from what you were just talking about. But first, I'm going to say I haven't experienced that field trip to Earth yet, because that wasn't a part of the mobile lab when a couple of times that I've had an experience with it, and you're well aware that Rob and I have had that at a couple of events that that we've been at, and it is exceptional. So I'll encourage our listeners one more time to think about what you said, and any of those that are teachers or in trade groups and stuff, I encourage you to take Steve up on that offer and find out as much as you can about it. So, Steve, I am looking forward to experiencing the field trip from Earth, and there has been times in my life where I've felt I've woken up from hypersleep. So,
yeah.
All right. So, yeah. So this is a key point that, and maybe you can help just elaborate a little bit, because, I know you've said a lot about focusing on young people, right? Kids and teens and young adults, but, the programs that you have are great for older adults as well, right? I mean, it's not just the kids, and I know you do a ton of outreach and you go to schools, and, all this creates, awareness. And somehow that's got to be funded. So, first tell us a little bit about, why this is important to adults as well, and then kind of how all this comes together.
Can you hear me okay? I think I might have
perfectly
cut off.
Nope, you're good. You're good. Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you. You're good, buddy.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, okay.
We can hear you.
Sorry. Well, the adults absolutely can get involved in the programs. We have a program called My Volunteer Water Project, and anybody can go on the Wyland website, go to My Volunteer Water Project, and they can find all sorts of home-based activities that they can do for their landscaping in the home, around the community, and not only we'll give them a step-by-step instruction on what to do, but it'll also give them a report on their water savings as well. And because it can be virtual, you can do a project, and you can also do it with your cousin in Nebraska and your other cousin in Florida, and you can do it as a virtual group, so you can actually combine all of your cool projects, and you can see what your results are. And it's just a way of bringing people closer together. But the last thing I think I'd leave you with, Chris, is everything that we're doing right now is really in step with where water's headed in the next 25 years. And we do feel that water's going to become increasingly cross-connected between regions. We do expect demand to rise because of population growth. On the bright side, like we were saying earlier, per capita use is falling and will continue to fall because of efficiency gains. But the resource is still going to be strained because of overall population growth.
Right.
And I think people need to understand that, and that's where these behaviors and efficiency really come to play. Prices will go up. And I think eventually it's we're going to be reflecting the true cost of the treatment and recycling and infrastructure replacement. And there's so much to know in order for us to be able to maintain our standard of living. And that's really what we're doing. We're just preparing people for the future and giving them a sense of agency so they can make better decisions, and that benefit all of us. I mean, water, like we've always talked about, it doesn't know any political boundaries.
Yeah, true.
So it's part of the global commons, and we have to figure out a way to manage it together.
Yeah, true. So just managing the chat board here real quick, Steve, a couple of listeners that plug into the chat board kind of saying, like, how many galleries does Wyland have, and how many showings does he have a year, and how many people actually come and see his art? Can you elaborate on that?
Oh, I can give you some mind-boggling stats about Wyland. Definitely one of the best-selling artists in the United States. There's approximately 10 galleries around the U.S. He is, I think, over the course of his career, he's probably sold about $500 million in sculptures, and And I think something very important for people to understand is the murals that he's done for over 30 years have all been donations. The time we procure all the resources, and they're gifts to the communities. We paint them, and they belong to the community, and we're on to the next thing. So I think that's a pretty cool legacy to leave in your life. But Wyland's still actively painting every day, and he's got great side projects. He has he writes music, and he has a band called the Wyland Blues Planet Band, jazz band, and they just played at Jazz Fest in New Orleans, where coincidentally he's got a mural on the Riverside Hilton over there. So people who go to Jazz Fest or to New Orleans, they can check out that really beautiful mural too. So I mean, the guy has so many things going at any given time. It's just amazing.
Well, he painted a cruise ship, Carnival, and they sell his artwork on all those Princess, Carnival. They all handle this product. It's amazing.
Right, the Norwegian Bliss. He painted the hull of that. So, it's funny because we're a fairly small organization. Our group of people here in the Wyland organization, but everybody takes on some pretty big goals, and I think that's what makes it really special. And of course, at the top of the pack, there's Wyland doing all of those amazing projects. But we're all in, and very proud of the work we do. Proud of our friends like you, Chris, and Rob, and we're doing good work together, and it's never going to stop.
Nope. We're very excited about participating with you, and you and Wyland become good friends. We're all, we all know each other really well, and we call anytime we want, and vice versa. And we're always going to support you and be around. And I tell our listeners, go check out the Wyland Foundation on the internet. It's wylandfoundation.org. It's a great organization. They do great things. And if you ever have a chance to go meet Wyland, do so. He's the nicest guy you've ever met, and down to earth. And like Steve said, he's sold $500 million worth of product, but he doesn't act like that. He acts like your best friend, and that we appreciate as a company working with him on many of his projects. So, Steve, thank you. I do appreciate that.
Thanks, guys. It's always a pleasure. Love the show. Keep doing what you're doing.
We will. We're coming up to our 500th show. So that'll be good. But anyway, the most important thing that Chris and I have to tell our audience is please help keep our planet blue. Because if you like green, you've got to have blue. So everybody have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next week. Stick around for the Water Zone and on your radio or the internet, or however you get the information from that. Anyway, thanks a lot, and thanks for joining us. And have a good evening. Hold on, Steve.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future.